What's up, everybody? It's Sugar Erica from the Classy Climb blog. Using a little improv today. I have a great guest on who's been very patient with me. You guys, you know how to do here. When you come into the chat, you drop that city and state where you're at, so we can find a way to make more meetups to meet in the cities and states where you guys live. Uh, Sir, please introduce yourself to the audience.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Dalan Vanterpool. I'm originally from the British Virgin Islands, but after living in a bunch of different countries, I settled down and I'm now living here in Panama City. Panama, you have to specify that because when you say Panama City, people think you're like on a beach in Florida or something. But I'm in Panama, the Spanish one, to be clear. I've been working over the number of years, always around money for some reason. So everything from accounting and big four accounting firms to smaller firms, to managing family businesses, and now in the private banking and wealth management space. So that's where I'm at, and I'm on a mission right now to try to get that financial education, get that information that I've been learning and gleaning from clients over the years, get that distilled down and to the people that need it most so they can connect their career moves and their wealth goals.
I love it. I love it. Hold up that beautiful book for the audience.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're going to see. This is the latest project. I wasn't gonna slide straight into it, but since you asked,
Listen, I made it a part of the thumbnail. I want them to
yeah,
see.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. No, this is the new book, recently just dropped here, April 15th. So no boss, only clients. How to Build an Extraordinary Career and a Life of Freedom. We debuted and the top number one for a number of different categories, including careers, job advice, and that kind of stuff. And we're still in the top 10 of the new releases. So this is a new project that's been a labor of love coming out of the podcast, coming out of a lot of that stuff that we just talked about, where I've been dealing with clients over the years and trying to distill that information down into this, as well as you'll find a lot of insights from top level corporate executives who have made it to the top of their game, and he asked some questions on interviews over the years. Over 200 episodes of the podcast Careers and Cash Flow. Got to have some really candid conversations with folks about stuff they like, stuff they don't like. What did you do? Like, I don't want to hear the canned usual corporate talk answer. No, what did you say? How did you deal with this situation? And a lot of the information is distilled down in this book, so folks can go ahead and check it out. You can find it on Amazon, of course. We've got the Kindle and paperback version out there, and we're just waiting for the audio book to be approved. So check it out. You can find it as well at dallinv.com/book.
So before we got on, you guys, he was giving us a little story back history about being a saxophone player.
Oh yeah, that's
Because a lot of times people see, sometimes we talk about business or money, we're
yeah.
Lacking of a kind of personality or other activities. And so
Mhm.
I definitely want you to just share a little bit of that story for us.
Yeah, so I like to think of it, and it's actually related to some of the stuff that we do here. I like to think of it as you got to have like your Clark Kent and your Superman, right? Especially when you're in a career like accounting and you're an auditor. People are like, oh my gosh, this guy's completely boring. But fortunately, I managed to have kind of this yin yang. Literally, there was a phase in my career where I would have to be auditing companies during the week. So during the day, so I'm crunching numbers, I'm in Microsoft Excel, literally change clothes in the bathroom and jump onto a mega yacht to perform for some, like a millionaire or whatever it is, in front of their private island. So you have this kind of yin-yang effect on both sides of things. So I play saxophone and flute professionally as a jazz musician, and that has been it's been more than just a talent just for a hobby. We actually ended up turning it into a business where we're now doing gigs. Great, that's like level one. All right, you're doing gigs. Level two is you're running a band. All right, so now you have other people with you. Level three is you're getting paid and you're not even performing that night. Or you're performing in location A and you have another group performing in location B, which you're getting a commission off of. So we end up building that into an actual luxury entertainment concierge down in the Caribbean that worked out really well. So that's kind of my thing. I do the business, the official business stuff during the day, and then we can always switch gears and do the music stuff. And it's also a great networking tool. I mean, as you saw just now, like it's like people see you in a corporate space and they're expecting you to be very just one-dimensional. And then you're in the lobby of a place and you're like, oh, that's the song from Dexter Gordon's 19 whatever album on that went. They're like, wait, what? How did you how did you recognize that tune? Or they see you as a black guy and they hear something playing. I'm like, oh no, that's not Tchaikovsky, that's Chopin. And they're like, what? How did you? What? Okay, you know what I'm saying? You can have those kind of conversations with people as you understand the business world and the arts world. So it's a kind of interesting mix of things that I like to play in both sides.
I think what makes the life the richer for us is having the hobbies.
Yeah,
right? It's the
definitely.
sailing. For me, it's the motorcycle that even though I'm learning, it's like, it's the little things of the art and beauty of living, right?
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
always work.
right,
I'm like literally taking 3 months off at the end of this week and going and enjoying the western part of the United States and
right.
going over to Europe for a little bit. The one
Nice.
part I can go to. So
And
Croatia.
also knowing that everything doesn't have to be monetized. Like you can have something that you just do for fun. And I'm talking to myself here, but I think that's the thing that we fall into all the time. We always, because we're business minded, it's always like, okay, how can I, wait, what? No, just relax, breathe.
Mhm.
You can have something that's just for you that you do. You don't care if it makes money or not. You don't care if it
Yep.
blows up or not. It's just something for your internal, your self help, your mental health, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what led you to work in kind of the wealth industry?
I always had a fascination with, I wouldn't say with money, but I had a fascination with what people do, right? So growing up, when I was growing up as a kid, my family was in the supermarket business. And my dad was a former banker from back in the day. And this is a guy who came up, didn't get a chance to go to formal college or whatever, because he was working to pay for his other siblings to go to school. So he ended up working in a bank and started out as a bank teller and worked his way all the way up to assistant manager, right? Ended up being like in New York for a while, went to London, all this stuff. And then at some point when he realized he wasn't going to get promoted anymore, my mom is pregnant with me. I have one older brother, and he decides he's going to quit his job, right, to go be an entrepreneur. At the time, growing up on the island we were in the British Virgin Islands, there wasn't this is going to sound weird to some people, but fruits and vegetables were not just readily available, right? You couldn't just go out and say, oh, I want apples today, I want oranges today. It was always like, it's kind of sketchy, like it's available this week, it's not available the next week, maybe some farmer has it. So he sat down and he said to himself, look, I want to fix this problem. So he linked up with one of his clients who he had developed a good relationship with, and he said, look, I'm gonna quit this job. I want to open a little kind of produce store, a little corner store, so to speak. Can you spot me, say $10,000? I'm gonna bring in this stuff. I'm gonna sell it. I'll pay you back. And then if it works out, maybe we do it again. So fortunately, he kept his word. The business popped off. He sold the stuff, paid the guy back, and the guy was like, oh, you kept your word. Cool. Let's re-up. So they started doing that in the beginning for a while until he got enough capital up to where he could start doing some of his own things. And then, long story short, 30 years later, supermarket chain, serving, multi-million dollar business, that kind of stuff, and is able to spin that now as a cash cow that was used to build on a lot of different assets, to buy real estate, to start other businesses, to give back to communities. And when I was able to see that, and growing up around money all the time, not in the sense of having money, but my parents were very open about when we didn't have money and when we had money. Like I knew when we were getting sued for some reason. I knew
Right.
when something was going on, when stuff was tough. I know what it's like to sit there and like you're counting cash at the end of the night. I know what it was like when we got robbed. You know what I mean? To grow up in that kind of environment, to know like, oh yeah, some guys came to the store tonight with guns and they took all the money we have. Now we can't pay our suppliers this week because we just got jacked. Like to be 8, 9 years old and exposed to that, you really start to have a fascination with how the whole process works. And it also changes your perspective on what is a lot of money.
Yeah.
You see $100 bill. Okay, average kid might be like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. But I knew that our electricity bill for the month for running all the equipment in the store was like $40,000. So like your whole perspective shifts on what money is and how hard it
How
is to
much
work for stuff.
it is,
Yeah,
how big it
like
is, like this. Oh, $100. Yeah.
I'm
I
not saying it's
totally
not a lot of money. I guess it's all perspective depending on what you're talking about. So growing up in that world, just always seeing it, and then you get to network with different people in business over the years. I had that fascination, and I decided, look, if I'm going to do this, all right, I want to be a master of the craft. The best way for me to figure this out, one, obviously you can go to college, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, everybody knows you go to college. That's not a guarantee that you understand all the ins and outs of how to do something. If you want to understand how people get rich, you go study rich people, right? And for me, the path I took, it's not the only path, but the path I took was, okay, I want to learn how rich people get rich. I'm going to go learn how to manage rich people's money by getting a job managing rich people's money so that you can understand some of the things. I didn't want a superficial understanding. I want to know what is the ISIN, what is the specific Bloomberg code of the thing that's giving you this return? I don't want to hear like I invested in real estate. No, what is the thing? What is the name of the fund? What is the name of the manager? What is the ROI? What is the trailing 12 months return of this thing that's making you rich? You know what I mean? I wanted that kind of granular detail and jumped into the finance space, and it's just been interesting ever since then. Never a dull day.
You know what you just wrote down about knowing the exact steps.
Yeah.
So when people say, "What's your favorite book?" Right, and everybody goes, "Oh, Rich Dad Poor Dad." I go, "No, mine is Cash Flow Quadrant."
Uh huh.
Because it's the more granular. Okay, why does my family respond this way? Why
Yeah.
do they? People can only give you an answer from their sphere of knowledge,
Right.
right? And so now you're in the industry, and you're like, no, I want the actual knowledge, not like the
Yeah.
quotes or the
Yeah.
happy business quotes. I want your actual experience, and
Exactly.
that I totally understand that. Like,
I think people miss out on some of that stuff because that stuff doesn't look cool on Instagram. You know what I mean? That stuff doesn't sound. That's, to be honest, some of it is pretty boring. I mean, oh, go out and invest, and you can do this, and all the crypto, all that stuff is cool. But what the real work of it, when I see the real rich people who have money, like they're sitting down in Microsoft Excel reviewing the financials of 6, 7, 8, 10 different companies, 20,
yep,
30 different companies, and they're only going to choose one. That doesn't play well on social media, but that is
yep,
the real work of building wealth. Like I know you're into real estate, trucking business, all that kind of stuff. That sounds cool for a soundbite, but to really make it work,
yep.
it's work, man. It's time. It's studying numbers and making sure you're not losing money on this side, and you know what I mean?
Yes. And so that's what I told people. Like, I've been really coaching them about. I have one business that does amazingly well, and the outflow of marketing and staff is like less than 10%, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So then you start these other companies, and you see, well, I'm only going to make 20% off this company,
right.
or I'm only going to make 40% off this other company.
Hmm.
Your desire to go further in those businesses diminishes
Right.
quickly.
Yeah,
But that's the thing: 90% of most business owners don't know their numbers,
yeah, yeah,
right? Because it's not cool, it's not sexy to have to sit there and kind of comb through and see, is this worth continuing.
yeah.
So yeah, I completely understand what you're saying there. I was gonna say a little funny note that I invested in a cacao farm in Belize and invested in coffee in Panama.
Oh,
So
nice, 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 nice.
yeah,
Yeah, some of the
so
best coffee comes from down here. I've actually got a chance 2 years ago to visit one of the farms. I mean, I didn't. I'd visited a coffee farm in Costa Rica before, but this time I actually stayed there. Like I slept on the
yeah,
farm for like a couple of days to really understand the ins and outs of the whole industry and how it works. It's some fascinating stuff, and there's a lot of money to be made there. And kudos to you for looking not just at like the United States, but where you can make money investing in stuff outside of the United States, because there's a lot of stuff going on outside
oh,
of the
so many
mainland U.S.
Yeah. I mean, my
Yeah.
biggest thing is if I could get a rental out there in Belize where I was at, I was like, I loved it. It was a small island, but when people come, they're gonna stay for 2 weeks or a month.
Right,
And
right.
then you're
Yeah,
you're booked up. So
exactly, exactly.
but when I go back down to Panama later this summer, if you're in town, if you're not jazzing
Yeah,
it out,
yeah. No, no, look me
I'll give
up,
you
look
a
me
ring.
up. Look me up.
Uh,
We can definitely do some stuff.
what are some ways you've noticed that kind of being in the wealth industry, as a black man, as a chocolate man, however you want to identify, uh, has had its struggles or had a little bit of barriers to it?
Yeah, you see a couple of different things. And again, this is not to generalize at all because I've had a lot of positive experiences. But
Sure.
I've worked with, European kind of based banks, Swiss banks. I've worked with, United States. I've worked with Latin American stuff. So you see a couple of different things. I think one of the biggest challenges is your network. Now, the wealth management business, a lot of it is based on relationships, right? A lot of it
Yes.
is based on relationships. I've been in deals, I've been in deal situations before where opportunity comes up on the table, and they say, all right, minimum buy-in for this is $500,000. If you don't have $500,000 at least to put in, and you can't get out for 3 years, so it can't be like
Yes.
your last $500,000. It can't be that
Hmm.
you need this back. Like if you can't just put 500,000 on the table and leave it for 3 years, you can't play ball in this. So the network and the relationship tends to be a handicap because a lot of times, depending on where you're from, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes we don't know. We being sometimes minority, we don't know and have those connections from the country club or from wherever it is with a lot of other people who have that kind of money, right?
Yeah.
So when you're trying to move and you're trying to like, all right, let's book this deal. Who am I gonna call? Somebody next to you, they're gonna call up all their buddies from the country club. They're gonna call up all their friends from the golf course. Who you gonna call? You know what I mean? Like you don't have those kind of people who have that amount of money, one, or
Hmm.
that amount of money liquid. They don't have that much dry powder sitting on that they can move fast enough to do it. They might have the assets. Okay, I got this amount of houses. I got some land. I'm like, yeah, but what are you gonna do? Can you sell the house by tomorrow because I need to book this deal
Yeah.
in 2 days? You know what I mean? So they don't have that kind of dry powder sitting around. that's kind of one of the handicaps you face a lot of times. And I think that's one of the things we need to make sure we can fix. Like by building the network and being able to have more mature conversations about what our wealth goals are. And I'm not saying you got to put all your business out there, but if you have an interest, for example, now that I know you have an interest or you're open to things in Panama or you're open to things in Latin America, okay, Erica's on my radar, right? As somebody who might be open to this. If we didn't have these kind of conversations before, I might never call you. Not because I don't like you, I just didn't know. I didn't know what's going on with you. So it's more for us to start having these kind of conversations about what we're thinking on doing, what levels of investment we're open to. Our investment horizon is also a big challenge sometimes because you'll meet people who they want. And when I say investment horizon, that's just investment jargon for like how long are you planning to be in this? Like what's your time frame for this? So when a good investment advisor sits down with you, they're not just going to say, okay, this thing here is making X%, you should do it, right? They're going to ask you, wait a minute, what's your time horizon? Now, some people are thinking they're building this for their kids. Like, oh, I just had a baby. I want to build this. This is a 20-year kind of thing because this is the 18 to 20-year kind of thing because I want to build this up to pay for the kids' college, university degree or whatever it is. So that's a longer time horizon. Some people might say, no, I'm a little bit older. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. So I have a 10-year horizon on this. I need to make this return by that time. So I think a lot of times one of the struggles we have is being young, but being so anxious to win fast, right? That we pull up on these short time horizons. Like we want it in 3 years, 5 years. Where real money, as you are, I'm talking to the choir here, but for whoever's out there, real money takes time to compound. Like you can make money quick, but like heavy money takes time. You know what I mean? If you want an investment that's hitting you back with, 8, 9, 10% return, you got to be willing to sit there and kind of wait for it to grow, wait for it to mature, rather than just trying to cash out super quick so that you can go buy something. You got to be able to let those assets, especially if you're into real estate, like I know you are, you got to be able to just hold on a second, let the value of that property grow a little bit. I know it's hurting you. You want to pull out the equity and go, do whatever else. But having a little bit longer of a time horizon is something I think is another challenge we just have to that you meet with especially younger folks in our communities where they see the money and they like it and they get anxious and they're not willing to wait for the big returns that somebody else from other places might be willing to wait for.
Patience and having a stable floor.
Yeah.
So prime example, I like everything you're just saying. I'm like, bingo, bingo, bingo. I have friends who do capital investments and they don't do less than 12 months. Yeah. And before I started, my friend was like, Erica, do not take any money for less than 12 months. And I'm like, it'll be fine. Yeah. And then I had a construction project go over. Then I had another project and it's like, oh my God, you're right.
Yep.
And that's even a short time frame. So I'm invested in an apartment complex with a group of people and they were like, okay, it's 50K. And I'm like, ooh, right? But the 50K is going to double, in about 3 to 5 years once we do this cash out and all of this. Most people are like, oh, I need my 50K back.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do, and this is kind of a little bit of what we get into, a lot of what we get into in the book, and saying, look, for example, my podcast is called Careers and Cash Flow, right? Yeah. So I'm all about looking. You need to invest, you need to do all that kind of stuff. For most people, let's be realistic here. Most people are not going to go out and be some kind of crazy, super big entrepreneur, right? At least not on day 1 or day 2 or day 100. They may get there, but you're an entrepreneur. It's not for everybody, right? The other thing I like to preach to people is that, look, this is not a mutually exclusive thing. You don't have to quit your job today to start a business tomorrow. And notice I say start a business, I'm trying to pull away from using the side hustle.
Yes.
Okay, yes, that's a thing, but we want to start talking about building businesses. You know what I'm saying? Where you actually you're not just the only one doing all the work, and you're running around all the time. You're building businesses where you can start having. Yeah, you're not owning another job.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to stop doing what you're doing now. So when you talk about careers and cash flow, you're talking about being able to sit on stuff. One of the beauties, or one of the benefits of having a stable job, at least in addition to all the other stuff you're doing, is that you can say, look, I'm going to work my salary and all the stuff I'm going on from this main job to the point where this can cover my base expenses. So when I go out and someone says, can you drop 50K in an apartment complex project for 2 years? I'm cool because I know I'm not going to starve in between now and then because my actual base expenses are covered. You know what I mean? The other thing I tell people all the time, from working in the banking space, I've seen I've seen and heard the conversations that happen when an entrepreneur comes looking for financing versus when somebody who has a stable job looks for financing. And I,
Yes. Bingo.
it's tricky. And this is
Preach
why I say
on.
you gotta if you're going the entrepreneur route, you gotta make sure you're running a business, you got your financials like audited by somebody or at least some kind of CPA looking at stuff. Because you
Yes.
can't just come in there and say, I have 100,000 Instagram followers. I would like financing for the bank is gonna be like, you,
Good luck.
ha sido un placer. It's been a pleasure. Like, ciao, talk to you later. So you got to really start thinking about building that business in that kind of way. But if you say, look, I'm all about leveraging your career. I'm not saying you have to stay in your career. I'm not saying you have to quit and become an entrepreneur. I'm saying while you're in that career, learn how to leverage it, right? Go out and get your first property while you still have a regular job. 'Cause that financing conversation is going to go a lot smoother if you can just provide them 2 months pay stubs. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but you're gonna have a lot easier conversation if you say I'm doing a rental property, but I'm also just in case something goes wrong, I have the pledge of my regular salary income as well as another guarantee as a backup just in case. You can get that done a lot faster from a banking perspective if you have some kind of regular stable career. And the other thing is also your network. I mean, people are in careers, and I think while you're there, we get caught up so much in complaining in the
Yep.
Instagrammy, I
Oh,
hate
it's
my job.
Monday.
Yo,
They're
it's
down
Monday. Da, da, da. Da. I'm
Friday.
like, yo, leverage the network. Like, don't just collect the business card. We have two chapters in this book talking about networking 1.0 and networking 2.0, right? Networking 1.0, making connections. This is stuff people know. You exchange business cards, you get your name, blah, 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 blah. All right, that's networking 1.0. Networking 2.0 now, you're talking about starting to be data driven, right? Nurturing relationships is what I call it. So if I'm building my network 2.0, I don't just have your business card. I know, okay, if I'm saying Erica, all right, I got her phone number, I got her email, I got the contact information, but I also put in my notes that she has an investment in coffee in Belize. I also put in my notes that she's open to this. I also put in my notes that she's in a trucking business. So if I'm trying to build a relationship with you, every now and then I'm gonna scour the internet. I'm gonna see if something pops in my eye for something about an interesting article about the trucking business. And I'm not asking you for anything. I'm leading with value. I'm not asking you for a favor, introduction, nothing. I'm gonna say, hey, Erica, I just saw this. I know you're in the trucking business. This might be useful to you, right? So sharing some information with you. Or I'm trying to add value as much as possible to you before I even think about asking anything, right? Or I might say, hey, I know somebody else who's in the trucking business. Maybe you two might want to meet. Hey, Erica, I'm not gonna send an email and copy this person on it, but here's this person, here's their profile. They're in my network. You let me know if you want an introduction because I think you two can put some ends together and make some stuff happen. Adding value to the other person. So I think that's the other level of networking that we miss out on besides just the casual. I mean, people have like 500 LinkedIn connections and don't talk to like 10 of them. Don't really know what people do.
Come on, yeah. I mean,
What you
or
doing?
people wait till something bad happens to reach out and talk to everybody. Oh, I just
Yeah,
lost my job, and I'm like, no, 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 that's not how you do it. You kind of build
yeah.
it up before that.
You got to
Part of
dig
what
that well
that is,
before you need it.
yeah, part of what you're saying, why I'm like, this is so spot on. I wish everybody could hear it. Is I have a friend who's an engineer.
Yeah.
He's been wanting to get, people want to quit their job. He's like, wait, I'm gonna buy a couple of single family rentals, and then he
Mm-hmm.
went and he did the math, and he's like, no, I need a multi-family. So then he reached out to every engineer he had, like, hey, you guys, I'm trying to get this apartment deal. Would you be interested if you have 50K liquid? And then,
Yeah.
here's the numbers, here's the prospectus, everything.
Right.
And in 3 years, he's bought 33 mobile home parks in apartment buildings.
Awesome.
And it's all from the network of engineers. And
Right.
then he used some internet, right?
Right.
Like the internet was the extra, but the original backing came from all engineers and people like me who knew him before he left. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go in the trucks. And he's like,
Yeah.
no, stay over here with apartments. And I'm like, no worries. And now I'm like, dang.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of that speaks to like integrity as well. This is like the side issue that people don't realize. Like, okay, you knew him before. I mean, a lot of times, especially in the wealth management space, the deal comes down to I can tell a client all the numbers. You can tell somebody all the different calculations, but what it really comes down to at the end of the day, before they push that button or sign that check, is do they trust you?
Yeah.
Are you the kind of person who's been has a track record of keeping your word, right? Are you somebody that I know, like, and trust? Do I want to
Right.
do business with you? The numbers might look great. I've seen deals before that look gorgeous, but I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
who's doing it?
Now he doing it. That's okay.
I don't want. I don't know something. There's something I don't know. No, I'm not doing it. So I think that's the other part, man. Just managing your level of integrity whether it's in specifically in business, you gotta be just kind, you gotta be that honest, upright, proper person all times. Your brand, you can't really just switch it on and off. I'm not saying you can't relax or whatever it is, but if you're gonna be in certain spaces, you're trying to do more and build wealth and all that kind of stuff. People will check you out. You know what I mean? This is 2021. People will find out stuff that you did
Google.
shady deals before. People will Google you. People will run. I mean, I've seen especially if you start getting into like serious money, the
Yeah.
level of detail. I mean, we'll check with Interpol before closing a deal with somebody. You know what I mean? Like world check you. We'll see, whatever went on before. So people are looking for those kind of things. So you got to make sure you're keeping your integrity up as well if you plan to move into that serious money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The biggest thing I tell people is over communication. And it's in hiring employees and having to fire some, and then
Yeah.
also dealing with investors. So I have like about 150 different deals
Yeah.
in various things. And like, there's some people I haven't talked to them in months and they're fine with the email. There's some people like, I need to get on the phone with you today.
Yeah.
And you talk to them 10 minutes later, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to know your people.
You got to know your people. There's a great book, but I can't remember what it's called. And it had like certain people are blues and reds and just their level of how they communicate about money.
Yeah.
And some of people, it's not even about the money. It's about you and them interacting. And so I've just learned a lot in the past 5 years and always want to be better. Right.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I love it. I love it. The networking thing, which I love, is I told people I made more a leap year in my business the year. And not only did I spend a lot of money investing in myself, but also I went to so many conferences and seminars where I was able to connect and talk to actual people in business. And, oh, this is what I'm doing, Erica. Just do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
And would have never known that. Would have had to pay 20 grand for it. But because we were there at a dinner together, at an event together, just leaps and bounds and stuff,
Yeah, and that's I mean, obviously it's difficult now with the situation where we're in right now. People don't want to do the face to face
They're
stuff all the
starting
time.
out a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but I think even through that, everybody's aware of the situation. But I think now is when we have to, like you said, over communicate, and we have to go even more. You have to go even harder to try to make those connections genuine. Like, I know we can't meet in person. At least get off the email and pick up the phone. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or let's do a quick video call. Or you got to find ways to humanize what's happening here. Because like you said, you can build so much faster by the right person at least. The right person putting you onto one piece of information, or the right person introducing you to the right connection, more so than just spending forever either paying for that lesson or just trying to hope to stumble into it.
For sure, for sure. I mean, there's a world of opportunity, and what I want people to understand is, I was listening to this guy, and he's like, "Well, I'll just go do it myself," and I'm like, "True, but groups go faster and go further.
Yeah.
It just is what it is."
Yeah.
What are some other takeaways that, people, if they, let's say they want to work with you, they want to talk with you, I know you might work with this type of level clients. What are some things they can kind of start themselves out with in the, just kind of cleaning up their financial wheelhouse and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so the first thing I tell people all the time is, one, understanding where you are. Like, before we start talking about, and this is why I say the career is important, because people like to talk about investing and this and that other, and yes, I understand, trust me, this is what I do, you got to invest, you got to make sure you're keeping up with inflation. Well, if I say, here's a great investment, and you don't have any money, what are we going to do? Right? Like, all that fancy stuff is great, and the trading and how many ticks and how many contracts. Yeah, but if you don't have the cash to start, like, we got to figure that out first. I say the first step in this thing is really taking stock of where you are, one, and fixing your mindset, right? Before we even get into like the hard, what we're going to do, how much you're going to save each month, all that kind of stuff. A lot of us are suffering with these limiting beliefs, and we have this awkward, dysfunctional relationship with money. Like, we still feel, how people feel uncomfortable talking about sex? They feel uncomfortable talking about money. Like, numbers. I had a phobia for a long time. I used to hate going to the bank, because back in the day, you had all the little square form, the little rectangular forms. I didn't know which, the blue one is this, that. We have all these little weird hang-ups about money. So we got to start first by fixing your limiting beliefs. And this is kind of where the book starts out with this get ready thing, saying, like, you got to fix your limiting beliefs about money, understanding the kind of information that you were taught as a child coming up and as a young person coming up. Look, I look at it this way. It hit me this week. When I moved to Panama, I had to learn Spanish really quick, right? I speak Spanish. I landed in the bank. Everybody's speaking. They can speak English, but the day-to-day business, everything is in Spanish. You're in the street. You want to move. You got to do things. You gotta learn Spanish. So I was like, shoot, I gotta level up real quick. So I decided, look, I need to learn this language so I can be more fluid and fluent moving around here. So I went and took a course every day for 4 months. And ended up learning Spanish I had to go from zero to hero in 4 months. It was hell. My life sucked for 4 months, but you figured it out. So money is just like another language, right? So you don't feel guilty about the fact that you don't understand all these things. Like, did you learn Spanish in your house growing up? Was anybody else talking Spanish? Was anybody else talking French? Then you probably don't know those languages. So if people weren't talking investments, if people weren't talking rates of return and all this kind of stuff in your house growing up natively, and you didn't take the time to study it separately on your own, you're probably not going to know this language of money. And I put it that way specifically, that language, there's grammar to it. There's vocabulary, there's irregular things that happen just like actual language, right? So that's the first thing. Get your mindset right. Understand where you are with money. What are the things that make you uncomfortable? And do you feel like a bad person? Because I see so many people who are hating on rich people, but going to work every day. I'm like, you going to work hoping to get poor? Or are you trying to get rich like that same person? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you're going there hoping not to get paid, right? So fix those kind of limiting beliefs. Next step, let's take this is the actual numbers of it here now. Let's take a serious stock of where you're at, right? What is your burn rate? Like, how much cash are you burning each month? How much do you actually need to cover all bills, right? And all that kind of stuff. And then you can add on stuff like, your emergency savings and all that kind of stuff. But I usually like to start with the bare minimum. What do I need to make, or how much money do I need to come in to make sure I'm not going into red in a particular month? From there, you're setting savings goals. And with the savings goals, I think where people get discouraged a lot of times is they set a savings goal that is too big. They say, oh, I want to save, I don't know, $1,000 a month, $10,000 a month, or whatever it is. I'm like, when you start out saving, it's more about building the habit, like psychologically, than about the amount. Like, pick something stupid small. I mean, this is your personal thing. Pick something small. Pick $50 a week or whatever. $50 every 2 weeks. And see if you can stick yourself to doing that. Cut out one random expense. People like to make jokes about if you cut out a cup of coffee every day, you're not going to get rich. No, you're not. But if you can discipline yourself to cut out something that you don't really need, small, you can probably end up doing it for something big. So it's more about building the habit than actually the financial amount of that $5 coffee or whatever it is. From there, you're saying, okay, you got your money up and you're doing different things, you're starting to save. Now we can start talking about, once you've built up enough savings to do certain things that you need to have like a buffer, then we can start talking about what you need to invest in. Now the rub there where you need to talk to an actual financial professional is, at what point do you keep saving and what point do you start investing? That's a kind of individual, personal kind of decision in there that you want to start thinking about. And that's not something that you can just answer a general blanket answer. That's going to be different for everybody. But those are the things I think people need to start with. Mindset, take stock of where you are, then start building the habits of wealth and understanding the language.
Love it, love it. Like, I have a guest that comes on all the time. He gives people risk assessment tests.
Yeah.
And he's like, has anybody given you this before? And people be like, no. He's like, then they are not doing you well. Because sometimes people are like, hey, I want to quit my job in a year. And I'm like, no, let's make it 2 years.
Yeah.
Let's have a plan. Let's slow drip this out, because I think people think they're going to be on a beach every day and just money coming in. And it's like, you got to kind of like wean yourself off of like unrealistic expectations and realistic expectations.
Yeah, I think you talked about this. Was it? I don't know if it was a video or a blog I saw from you just recently about Margaritaville. People think, where's the old blog post of yours? I saw this like a couple days ago. People think they're gonna be just out there pina colada or whatever it is. Like, I don't know, man. Most of the rich people I know, I mean, there's some who are just living off of the interest of whatever it is, but a lot of them, especially if you're first generation, second generation, even third generation, these folks work, man. Like, yeah, they're rich. When they play hard, they play super hard. Yeah, it keeps this going. Like, they're running companies. They're making hard decisions. They're dealing with things. Yeah, they'll go vacation out for a month or whatever, 2 months or whatever it is, but there's actual work involved in what they have to do. They're not only relaxing and playing and having a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the eat, drink, and be merry. This is like a real American dream people have. And I go, everybody I know, even the guy I know right now that makes $2 million, he works hard for about 90 days and then takes a really solid 2 weeks every 90 days.
Yeah.
And he takes his wife wherever they want. She's been looking it up and Pinteresting it and looking it up, takes her where there, and then they go enjoy it. And he comes back and does it again. And so I think that's everybody's balance is going to be different, of course.
Yeah.
But I think this kind of dream where, hey, we're going to quit and everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Bob Marley song, right?
Right.
So, um, or that the cost of things are going to be so magically low somewhere else. Because I used to think I was going to move to Panama when I left college. I was like, if I don't get to go speak, I kept applying for jobs in Korea to teach English,
Yeah.
and none of them went through. And I was like, man, it's because the hair, man, and something. And so my mom was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to Panama. She's like, and doing what? And I'm like, I don't know. But you get those motions of it's got to be great somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it completely strips you of enjoying where you are now.
Right. Right.
What are things you enjoy doing? Like I enjoy helping people like get it,
Yeah.
get it that it's not that far away. And really, I mean, I remember talking to this lady on the phone and she was like, I don't know if I should file bankruptcy. And I'm like, okay, how bad is the debt? She's like $12,000. And I
don't
said,
mean to laugh, but
ma'am, yeah, like, ma'am, you can work a part-time something.
yeah, you can do that.
You can pay like
you can,
$1,000 a month till it's all done and it be over in a year.
right, right.
And
I
you
thought
don't
I
have
thought
to
you were about to
just
drop a big number. Like, how many million is she? How much 100,000? No, $12,000.
but it was across more than one credit card. So for
Yeah.
her, it became this anxiety thing. And so
Right.
I have tons of phone calls like that. Or I'll have people who are like, I got a car, I got an apartment. What should I be doing?
Yeah.
So you got to really do an assessment of what are your personal goals, PFF goals,
Yeah.
professional, financial, and foundational. But
I think one of the things I found useful as well is when you're making these goals, and we go over this thing in the book called this concept called your high resolution why, right? I mean, you hear people talk about what's your big why. I think the problem is that sometimes the why it's big or sometimes, but it's two things. It's not high resolution. Like it's not so crystal clear.
Right.
You have a sense of what it is, but it's still kind of vague. It's big, but it's vague. Because I
Yeah.
want to be rich. I'm like, that's not maybe
Okay, why?
what is that number? Like what is that? Like what is your? I was asking people, I'm gonna start calling off some numbers to you. This is what I tell people sometimes in calls. I'll be like, I'm gonna call off some numbers to you. Stop me when it sounds big. You know what I mean? People stop you at different places. You get to like 100,000. People are like, whoa, buddy. I'm like, okay. I thought I was gonna have to go a little further there. But you gotta make it high resolution in that you understand the specifics of what it is you're trying to accomplish. Like, for example, for me, I know I want to get to the point where I don't just have a big enough business where I can travel and do things. I want be able to have my family fly in money. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able to say like I'm going to X place to speak this week. I'm gonna pay. I can cover the cost of staying the extra couple of days. I'm gonna fly in my family so we can rock out, do what we have to do, and then we'll fly back to. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
changes the perspective. And I gave the example of somebody in the book of you're on YouTube right now, and you can change the resolution of that video. It's the same video,
Yeah.
right? But looking at that video in 480 versus 4K, it's a different experience. You're gonna see some more details. It's a different kind of feel. So a lot of people have these like 480p, 240p low resolution goals, but it's not crystal clear enough. The second thing I think we need to do is make these goals, part of your goal needs to be detached from you, right? If everything about your goal is only internal and it only affects you, it only has a dependence on you, it's easy to quit. But when you make a piece of that goal external, like I need to accomplish this because so-and-so is depending on me, or I need to accomplish this because I have a cause or community that I want to support. You make a piece of that where someone else or something else is depending on you, it makes it a lot harder to just kind of give up when stuff gets hard or really slow down. You can really keep the pressure on and make things happen that way.
For sure, for sure. I call it me goals versus we goals,
There you
right?
go.
When you have staff and people are like, well, I would just fire on my staff. And I'm like, well, when you start being responsible for people, you start seeing
Yeah.
them every day, you don't just go, well, I quit it if I'm done with them. That's not realistic.
Exactly.
And we goals is a win-win situation. It's not
Right.
just you win and it means nothing, right? Because it doesn't
Right.
really have any value.
Right.
There's a boys charity in Dallas that this summer I'm like, I'm going to give y'all 5K. Well,
Yeah.
then 2020 happened. I was like, ooh, I know I'm supposed to give y'all 5K, but I'm gonna get closer. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that check
Yeah.
this month, right? And so
Exactly.
you start having like little mini goals for yourself.
Right. Right. And I think that's super important, man. You start doing that kind of stuff and thinking about not just what you want to do. I always ask people, what is the impact that you want to have?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? I want to get rich. Yeah, but that's like the means. What is the impact you actually want to have? Like if you had a magic wand and you could do something, what is it that you would do? All right, good. let's work on that. You know what I mean? Like, what is it the impact you actually want to have on your community, on your family, in your own life? Like, how do you want to change things? Because money, I look at money a lot of times like building blocks. I tell people, do you have to be rich? Absolutely not. It all depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying
Yep.
to do, and money is material and speed, right?
Hmm.
That's how I look at it. It's raw material and it's velocity. Like you can do stuff
Yep.
faster when you have more money, and you can do more when you have more money. If you're trying to build a small, if you're just trying to build back your block, cool. You don't need that much money. If you're trying to
Yep.
build back a whole city, you need more money. You know what I mean? So it's not that one person having a lot more, wanting to be rich or not wanting to be rich is good or bad. It all depends on the size of the thing you're trying to accomplish and how
Yeah.
fast you're trying to move. Right? Because rich people, one thing I learned about rich people, they don't like waiting in line. I noticed that over the years with clients. They don't like. There's always like, okay, this vaccine is coming out. All right, I have to wait. Okay, which clinic do I need to call to get in the front of the line? Like, how can I accelerate this process? They don't. They're kind of. I don't want to say impatient, but they always think like there must be a faster way to do this. You know, that's
You
always
know,
the kind of thought.
that is pretty much what always end up me leaving jobs because I would suggest a faster way, a more efficient way for us to do something.
Yeah,
And eventually I realized they didn't want it. They just
yeah,
didn't like my answer for whatever reason.
yeah,
And eventually I got to a point in life where I'm like, hey, everybody's goal isn't to do something faster.
yeah.
Sometimes that's just not their goal.
Yeah, I've been in jobs before where they want to be the most affordable, and I'm the kind of person that wants to be the best, even if
Yeah.
it means charging a premium price. And I remember having conversations before with the manager. We're still friends to this day, and we laid it out on the table. I was like, look, man, we're just on two different missions. We're on two different pages. I want to be the best. You want to be the most affordable, thinking that you want to play the volume game. I don't mind serving five, but having super high premium clients. There's just difference in strategy. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
fine, but we can't work together. You know what I mean? We have different goals. You want to be 100,000 a year. You want to be a millionaire. I want to be like a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
You're not going to pay me more than you. Therefore, the mathematics don't work out. So I
Yeah.
can't work for you. It's just one of those simple things. You know what I mean?
My thing I learned over the course of time, I'm like, man, I'm making these courses affordable so people can get them. And then I realized I would go to other people's groups and classes and trainings that were
Yeah.
7,000, 10,000, $20,000. When people really want something and they want the best, they'll pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Point
Now the
blank
onus
period.
is on you to make sure you can demonstrate the social
Yeah.
proof and you can deliver and you can show why it's the best. But yeah, there's a category of people out there that are like, look, I just get me the solution. Like I will write
Give
the
me
check.
the best, give me the solution. Also, too, when you start making your price too low, people go, well, if it's that low, I can get it somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's a psychological thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 You raise that price and raise that scarcity a little bit and puts a little psychological pressure on
for
people.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
There's a like a thing I'm adding to one of my courses, but I was telling people, I was like, if you knew how, and I don't want to be downplay it, but how simple it is to go from 0 to 150,000
Hmm.
with social media, it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's not, right?
Yeah.
And but it's just like a math problem. Now, when you want to go from 200,000 to a million, now we're talking about some creativity, some other things, some other steps, some other this, some advertising. And so what I try to get people to contact, kind of get in their mind is, I have friends who literally have a house in South Carolina, off in Charleston, and they live a great, easy budget. They make six figures, very low six figures, and they don't need any more.
Right.
They're like content. And
Right.
so you also have to get people to kind of realize, like, what kind of business do you want? What kind of life do you want?
Yeah.
What kind of clients do you want to work with?
Hmm.
And so that's, I mean, even right now with me with trucking, hey, do I want to deal with this type of person who wants to holler and cut up? And no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
we went through that building the music business. We got criticized all the times when we were coming up in the Caribbean. You know, it's all like calypso and reggae, and people are doing carnival music and this kind of stuff. We come out of the left field talking about we're gonna play jazz, and people are like, nobody's gonna pay for that. And I was like, yeah, nobody's gonna pay. Like the kinds of people that that we're trying to deal with. I'm not concerned about the people who want to pay us $100 a night. I'm concerned
Yeah.
about the people who want to pay 2,000,
Yeah.
3,000. Now, of course, that means we didn't have a lot of gigs. You know, we didn't have a lot of gigs.
Yeah.
I would rather play twice a month for $2,000, $3,000
Yeah.
than me doing a million of these like $50 gigs up at night, loading equipment, all this kind of stuff. So you choose, like
Yeah.
you said, you choose what kinds of people you want to work with and how you want to move. It's not for everybody, but you choose how you want to be. You want to be premium or you want to do the volume route. Either one is fine, but just know what you are up for.
Oh, listen, man, the trainings I've been to this past year and like last year, I'm like, all right, y'all can have all this. There's a lot of things I've learned on the way. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm good.
Yep.
And that just takes time, though. Sometimes takes time. So you have the book, No Boss, Only Clients.
Yep.
And is the focus of the book more of just like serving people?
The focus of the book is trying to get us to understand one large premise, right?
Mhm.
Everybody who is in the pipeline, everybody who's in the course of events, the chain of events that gets you paid,
Yeah.
is not those people are your clients, not your
Yep.
boss. Because a
Yep.
lot of us are sitting in jobs and we're trapped in this kind of mental funk where we think that we're working for people. You're doing work, but
Yep.
you're working for you, right? Always be working for you. You can do
Yep.
work for other people, but be working for you, right? So if you're in a job, this person is not your boss. That person is your client. Now I say it all the time. That puts pressure on both sides of things. It puts pressure on them because if this is a client, you can pack up and leave and go find another client. But it
Yep.
also puts pressure on you because you can't just be sloppy. You actually have to deliver results, otherwise you don't deserve to be paid, right? Because this is your client you're serving here. So it changes the power dynamic with things where you start looking at things a lot differently, where you're now taking you're taking more agency in the direction, the trajectory, in the speed and the growth of your career because you're not sitting back waiting for things to happen. You're actually in there dealing with the clients. If you want something else, if you want a picture, if you want more pay, you're not going to sit there. No client is just going to offer you more money just because that's not how it works. So you don't walk into the Apple store and then say, "Oh man, this iPhone is really great. They're charging me 1,200, but I'm gonna give them 13." No, you don't say that. Clients, that's not how it works, right? They have to come and make the value proposition to you. So the same way, you got to come in now and change your perspective and say, "Look, I'm at this job. I'm providing. I wake up on Monday morning like, all right, cool. Let me go serve my client. Let me go serve this client. When I get home from that client, I'm gonna do this for this other client." You got to take back the power and try to take control of what you're trying to do. That changes perspective in a lot of different ways. It even changes how you negotiate your compensation. An employee is sitting there negotiating their salary, right? But if
Yep.
this person is your client, you're negotiating the compensation package. Like, how do you want to be paid? Like, salary, okay, that's one thing. The question is, we go into the book about these non-cash ways that a lot of folks don't look at how to get paid. Like, would you rather have an extra couple $1,000s, or would you rather have an extra 5 vacation days? For me, I'm thinking, if I can get 5 more vacation days, I can go do 3 more speaking engagements. Each one of those speaking engagements might pay me 10,000. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather
Yep.
have the time to serve more clients. Or if I'm saying, okay, do I want the salary increase or do I want some equity in the business? You know what I mean? Do I want to do I want to negotiate so that every time they fly me somewhere, they kick back the frequent flyer miles to me so I can use that for free to go travel to somewhere else? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different perspective about how you're doing things when you start thinking about people as your clients versus them being your boss, right? You got to take back the power on things. So that's the main premise of the book. And then we slide into obviously techniques that you can use to maximize your career and things that a lot of people aren't doing, how you can really talk to high level professionals, high level executives. Because again, we're trying to build this in a way where I'm not saying you have to quit, but I want to get you into the position where you have the choice, right? You are sitting there saying, no, my finances are in a place, my network is in a place, my extra business is in a place where I'm doing this not because I have to. I'm working with this client not because I'm desperate and they drop me, I'm going to be bankrupt and everything's going to die. I'm here because I want to and I can leave. Now, whether you decide to leave or not, it's up to you. If you want to go freelance, if you want to go do your own business, fine. But I think we really need to live in a space where if last year has taught us nothing, where you have your situation set up where you're not dependent on one particular client. And I don't say boss or job, but you're not dependent on one client. So the latter half of the book now, the latter probably 40% of the book, if you're trying to get to the money part of it, stick into the end. This is where I start going. This is where I start going in. Is the part called that section is called part 5 is called Get Paid. So this is when we start talking about the investment stuff, the moves you need to be making, the different fees that these investment managers like myself are going to try to slip in on you
Yeah.
that you got to be paying attention to. How do you what are transaction fees versus account management fee? What are the things that are going to eat into the money that you think you're making? So that's where we start unveiling a lot of those secrets in there and how you can build a business in a way that you're not so swamped that you can't do your main job or your main client, right? Because a lot of us will build businesses where, again, we talked about it just now, you're building another job. You know what I mean? I appreciate it, Anthony. You're building another job versus building a business. So we talk about how do you build systems, right, in a way where you can start outsourcing some of this stuff to a VA. You're outsourcing it to a team. You're outsourcing it to different things so that you can be doing your dealing with your main client during the day, but stuff is still happening on the side. Just like I talked about with the music business, I could have stayed there practicing. I wasn't the best musician, but I'm in the band. The guys in the band went to Berklee College of Music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm getting people that are even better at me at that thing because
Right.
they say, look, bro, you're really good. You have the business brain. You book the deals. We'll write out the chords for the charts. I'm like, all right, cool. I could have been pigheaded and be like, no, I want to do this and I want to do everything. I'm like, yeah, but if we all start leaning into our strengths, that's where we can start making money. You have the gift of gab. You can sit down. I mean, we had clients like Richard Branson. We're performing at his islands. We're on mega yachts and that kind of stuff. They're like, yo, you know how to talk to these people. Go talk. I'm like, cool. You know how to play music. Play. You know what I'm saying? I'll come in and do what I have to do, and we can work together and make things happen. But we start talking about how to build that with systems so that you can have the freedom. Because I think the problem is when you build businesses without systems, and you're
Yes.
just flying it, you just like it's all in your head, and you kind of know how to do it, but nobody.
Whatever. Yeah.
It's tiring, man. Like you can't bring in help, and you also can't audit help, right? When you tell somebody, you give someone a task, but you kind of just verbally, casually explain it to them, then there's margin for error. Like things went wrong. Well, why did it go wrong? They can say, well, you didn't explain it to me well. You say that to me, I'm gonna be like, well, here's the procedure. Let's look together. I'm not blaming you yet, but step
Yeah.
1 or step 13.36 was confusing. Like let's adjust that. You know what I mean? So that's what you got to start doing. And this is the stuff that frees up people. You're building like a business. Side hustles don't have systems.
They don't. And they're very
Side hustles is you. Businesses have systems. You know what I mean?
I tell people, even if you're the special sauce in your business, like you're the special sauce,
Yeah.
even you need structure and boundaries and systems. And like, I'm a super creative person that's like, just do whatever I want. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, 99% of people work on 9 to 5. They work in systems. They work in a
Yeah.
certain structure.
Yeah.
Every year I've improved through systems and done
Yeah.
less work. I'm like, okay, well, I don't do
Yeah.
that.
My rule is I
Um,
have a rule of 3. If I have to do any task, if I see it approaching 2 or 3 times, I'm like, whoa, I need to document this. This is something I'm doing repeatedly. This needs a system. I need to sit down and I need to be able to hand this to somebody else and be like, hey, here are the steps, do this, contact me if anything is confusing. Like this needs to be systematized.
SOPs, like I wear them out. I just keep creating SOPs every day. I record videos, like,
Yeah.
hey, this is step by step by step.
Yep.
Because I have somebody on my staff who's 60, and then I have VAs who are in their 20s, and so I
Right.
can tell them both the same thing, but I realize I'm gonna have to record it sometimes.
But here's the beauty of it. The beauty of the systems, and we talk about this in the book again, like the get paid section. The beauty of the systems is this: there's employees, there are freelancers, and then there are entrepreneurs, right? And I think we really like, especially on Instagram, we really need to get clear on this. All right,
Yeah.
employee, you're working for somebody else. Cool. Freelancer, you're working for yourself, but you're doing the work, right? You're doing all the work. It's still dependent on you. If you take a vacation, if you stop working, money stops moving because you're a freelancer, right? Nothing's wrong with that. You might be a big freelancer, you might be a great freelancer, making a lot of money freelancer, but you're not an entrepreneur yet, right? Entrepreneur now is building these systems to a point where the very systems that you are documenting that you think are a waste of time, that is actually part of the value. Because if I come in and I say to you, hey, Erica, I like this trucking business that you have and so on. I'm really interested in doing it. I don't want to start from square one. I will offer you X amount of money for it, but explain to me how the business works. If you can tell me, hey, I don't just run this trucking business. I actually have manuals. I have procedures and all that kind of stuff. I can stay on board for 6 months or a year as a transition. I can be out. You buy me out, and you have the systems. You can continue doing the business on your own and hire other people, and they follow the systems that I perfected over the last 5 years. I'm like, oh, really? That I will pay for. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Versus a situation where I'm worrying. We call it in business, we call it key man risk or key woman risk,
Yep.
where if a business is doing great, but so much of the value is wrapped up in this one person, like what if they get sick? Like is the stock price going to drop? What if they leave? You know, what is just what's going to happen? I don't understand. Like, but if you have the systems now, the value of your business just changed. And this is speaking specifically. This is not even like some esoteric. This is like some wealth management. Like we're on Bloom. We're researching what is going on the inside of this business. Like I know I've talked to fund managers before. We had a call about a month ago, and they were talking about how they do their research on companies to decide whether this is something they should invest in or not. They were like, no, like we will send somebody to the factory to have a conversation with the line manager who's by the conveyor belt to ask him some questions to understand how the business works before we put our money in there. You know what I mean? People will go to that level of research on it. So I'm saying, yeah, you might not be $1 billion business today, but if you start with that mindset, building your business and your systems in that way, you can get a bigger payout. Or when you start trying to get the venture capital and investing in that kind of stuff, people want to know not just that you built this business, they want to know that this business can function independently of you.
Yes.
You know?
Listen, and where's the value add to it? A lot of
Yeah.
times people overvaluate something they're trying to sell, and you're like, baby, it's not that valuable. Sorry, I don't
Yeah.
want to. Eating
Yeah.
is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Thank you, Opulence and Excellence, for the $5 super sticker. Thank you for donating to the channel. He also
Oh,
sent us some extreme mastermind material. Listen,
hey,
you guys know I got to get one of my masterminds in Cabo or Panama or Belize sometimes. Maybe this year or next year, probably
I'm
next
here.
year.
I'm here. I'm in Latin America. Hit me up.
Listen, find us the location.
Let's do it.
But yeah, for sure. Listen, you guys, there's so many questions I could ask him, but I'm not going to suck up all his time. His time is valuable. So if you have any quick questions, throw in the chat real quick. We may take a minute to look at it. But other than that, I mean, what are some gems you want to leave us with?
Hey, look, man. There's a lot of there's so much more, and I don't just mean there's so much. I don't just mean money. There's so much more out there for us to do, so much more out there for us to accomplish, and so much more out there for us to take advantage of than I think a lot of us realize. I've seen how even my perspective has changed when you think $1 million is a lot of money, and then you see people send out a text and raise $5 million. Like it's
Yes.
the range of things is so much. It's one thing when you see somebody buy a house and then you help somebody buy an island. It's like I've had clients sit down in front of me frustrated because he's like, I can't decide which one of these castles to buy. I'm like, wait, what?
Yep.
What did you just say? And then so why are you buying a castle? He said, like, look, man, if I'm trying to close a business deal, I want somebody to do some business with me, and I tell them, hey, take your family and go to my castle for a week. I'll come out there and join you guys. How is that guy going to tell me no when he's sitting in my castle? Like, there's the range of things out there is so big that you got to really try to stretch your mind and understand the range of things that's possible. Besides that, though, I think the most important thing, like I said, is to really take hold of the impact that you want to have. This stuff I'm not just about getting rich for getting rich sake and all that kind of stuff. We have communities to transform. We have people's lives to impact, right? We have changes to make. And a lot of that can happen. It's difficult for a lot of that to happen if we're still struggling to meet ends meet and we're still struggling to get things done on our own personal level. Yeah, if we're struggling with the basics, you can't really, you can't put in that 500. You can't drop that 50K on the multifamily apartment complex that you're talking about. But I think a lot of that for so many of us starts with understanding this concept of having no boss and only clients, right? Building that extraordinary career and a life of freedom, not just for you, but for the things, the people, the communities, the causes that you want to impact. And a lot of that starts with doing the strategic, boring, non-Instagram, flashy work that it takes to really build wealth. You want to get rich? Don't talk to me, right? You want to build wealth, right? You want to build wealth. You can get the book and you start understanding the mindset and some of the things that people who are building that, who have been building that old money have been doing. And that's where we got to play catch up and get in there. So, I mean, thank you so much, Erica, for just the opportunity to come on and chat with you. Anyone who has other questions, I'm on social media. All the social media is the same thing, at Dalan Vanterpool, just at my name. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, hit me up on LinkedIn. Yeah, let me know what's going on. It sounds more fancy than it really is,
You got to come in the room and they don't even know. You just come in and they're like, Vanterpool.
Yeah, especially when you show up for an interview with that last name and you look like me. It's very, very interesting. But hit me up on Instagram, Twitter. Let me know what's going on. I'm at Dalan Vanterpool. You can get the book, of course, on Amazon, and you can find the book as well as DallanVanterpool.com or DallanV.com. It'll get you there. Happy to continue the conversation and have any questions. Eric, I want to get you on my podcast as well, man. We got to do a little swap. I want to hear more about the trucking business and all the awesome things you're doing. Let's get you over on the Careers and Cash Flow podcast.
Sounds good. Hey, just let me know. We'll book it. And we'll talk
Awesome.
offline about the mastermind thing because I'm actually very serious on that. But
Cool.
Listen, you guys, I bring on the best. I bring on the best guests. This is the last couple of days before I go on vacation. So listen, you guys better be hitting me up and let me know who are some of the guests you guys want to see. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Listen,
Thank you.
We'll chat more. All right,
Cool.
you guys, this is your girl, Erica, Classy Climb Blog. Later.
Ciao.